Hi everyone. So I want to carry on to item number 3 of the evacuation bag and philosophy series that I'm making for YouTube. So item number 3 is admin. As I mentioned before in the earlier videos, I made a list of about 10 things that I wanted to discuss. So topic number 3 is admin. Now admin can mean a lot of different things for a lot of different people. So I will explain what I mean and why I have included it sort of so high up on the list. So I've subdivided it into a number of things: comms, as in communications, cash, paperwork, and pen and paper. So essentially, admin is the paperwork that is important for you to have during an evacuation. Now, a lot of people will say, well, I have a copy of it on my USB, I have a copy of it on my email, I have a copy of my stuff on my smart tablet or my phone, so I don't really need paperwork. Well, this is the reason I made admin so high up, and I'm going to emphasize, highlight, and sort of underscore the word paperwork. Paperwork is very, very, very important. USBs can be damaged, they can be broken, they can be infected with sort of software viruses. Electronic devices, again, they can be water damaged, they can be broken, they can be stolen. Email, you might not have access to your email, you might not have a secure access to your email. I highly would not advise using a public computer, especially in an evacuation or in an emergency, following an emergency, using a public computer to access your email and download or print or to forward personal details like your national insurance number, your social security number, your passport, your driving license, your bank details. During that time, as normal people, we are going through a lot of stress, but on the other side, there are people of criminal intent who will use that human tragedy to exploit getting hold of your sensitive data, and that creates even more of an identity problem. So having paperwork in your possession is very, very important. I will give you a personal example. Now, as you know, I'm housebound. So in 2015, whilst I was still housebound, I had very, very bad health, and my mobile phone stopped working. So I used my landline to phone the operator, and they weren't helping me. So, and then I realized my online bank account wasn't working either. So I kept phoning the bank, I kept phoning the phones, and they kept asking me to prove who I was, and my passwords had been changed, my mother's maiden name had been changed, my email address had been changed, backup phone numbers had been changed. So in the end, what happened was that somebody sat in Nigeria had actually hacked my bank and my phone and moved money out of my account and around my account and that. So in the end, I had to actually go to the bank. I had to take a nurse with me and a family member to take me to the bank, physically into a bank branch, with my crutches and with my IV lines and so on. And I ended up shouting at the bank people. I was so very angry, and it was only then that when the nurse explained that I was so heavily disabled and nobody was helping me, then they started to pay attention, and even then they asked me to prove who I was. So I had to take my passport, my driving, and I knew it was going to happen, so I took all my documents with me. So it is far easier to have paperwork, your actual physical photocopies. That's what I mean by paperwork. So paperwork is very important, and that's why I wanted to really emphasize that. But I will go back to item number 1 of admin: comms, communications. So following an evacuation, following an emergency where you have to leave your home, or whether you have to get home, you need to be able to communicate. We live in a world where communication is sort of very, very important. We need to be able to give information to our family members, to our friends, and so on, and receive information. Always, always, always have a communication strategy. If your primary phone fails, do not 100% rely on your primary phone. Okay, maybe 50% or 60%, but never more than 70% at the very maximum. Do not rely on your primary phone. So always have a backup strategy. Either have a backup mobile phone, definitely. Have a different number. If you can get it, if you in a country like where you don't need to register it, don't register it. Just have the phone. So have a backup number, and also have places like or have a list of places like hotels or truck stops or public payphones where you can actually go and make a phone call, and you know that they work, or they will have a phone and you can actually use their phone to communicate. So have a backup communication strategy. Whether that is digital, like using Skype or other software applications, but primarily have a basic communication strategy, like having access to, or having note of where you can get access to a landline, and preferably have a number to leave messages at different places. So if your family is not at home, have your neighbor's phone number. Many people these days, everyone is on whatever latest touch type communication software is available, but you don't know your neighbors. So go and find out the names and phone numbers of your neighbors and set up a communication network by landline, not by mobile, by landline. If mobile signals go down, landline will always work, because that is a completely different set of communication. It is completely separate to the mobile network. So have your neighbor's mobile number. If you are inclined or so minded of using radio communication, make sure the people around you, even your neighbor, has access to a radio frequency that you are going to use. So have a communication strategy. Number 2, cash. There was a latest conference of ATM manufacturers, the wall ATM. So, where you can just go to an ATM and you can touch type and you can touch signature, and the ATM takes a photograph of you, and you can set up a bank account on your ATM, and you can trade shares on your ATMs. All these new fancy gadgetry ATMs are about to come out, and a lot of banks are, what they're doing, they are replacing actual human cashiers with these stupid ATMs. So there will probably be like one person and like a row of 10 ATMs. So you need to have cash, because ATMs can go down. The more and more and more features that these people put into ATMs, the more the likelihood that even if one or a series of them goes down, that could ruin your day, or that could ruin, you might just have to go to an ATM before you board a flight or something. So it might ruin your flight, it might ruin your onward travel. You might be boarding a train and you need some cash, so, and the ATM's not working, or the ATM that doesn't have enough cash that you need. So always, always, always have paper cash with you. There's a lot of people online, I see that, they kind of mock, they kind of laugh at the fact when other people say have cash with you. I disagree with that. As a disabled person, I have been in many situations where I have seen people that the card machine is not working, so they can't buy a ticket. End of conversation, And, they've had to go out of the train station to a very far place to find an ATM, and, even it's at night time, and I've even seen a lady having to do it. So have proper cash with you, please, because this is about looking after yourself and looking after the people around you. There is no shame in having cash. You're not being anti-technologyist or anti-modern, forward-thinking, whatever, and you're also not being a backward type of person. Preppers are either always called backward or overhyping people. We are not. What we are simply doing is, we understand technology makes our lives easy, and as a disabled person, I absolutely, both my thumbs up to that. but I also understand in practicality that it can fail, and it will fail. Now, if that spike happens during an emergency, then that also doubles the problem. But whereas if I am prepared and that technology fails, then I can compensate for that. I can look after someone who whose card is not working. Just lend them some cash to get home. It's a basic tenet of humanity. Just help people out. I might need some food. I might need to buy some food for the person next to me. So have some cash with you. It is really that basic, that simple, and that important. Paperwork I've covered. So with paperwork, have copies of your passport, your marriage certificate, your birth certificate, your licenses, joint bank accounts. If you have a joint bank account with anyone, keep one original, not a photocopy, an original in color. So the original thing that the bank actually sends you, statement. What that does is that gives you legal proof that ownership, that bank account is yours. So when my bank account got hacked, I knew I'd need extra stuff, so I actually took in one of my statements, and I didn't tell him I'd brought it. He actually asked me, do you happen to have a statement with you by any chance? So I actually gave him the original, and then later on I actually asked him for things that, people should have, and that's what one of the bankers told me, that always, always, always keep a copy, and an actual, not a copy, sorry, the actual statement that the bank sends you. So if this month is July, so keep June's statement and put it into your prepper bag, and you can swap it around or something, but always have one. And especially if you have a joint bank account, always have one that proves that you are legally allowed to access that bank account. And then together with a photo ID like a driver's license or a passport, or a military ID, or a naval ID like a seaman's ID or a pilot's license, they all have photographs on them. They all have your name, date of birth, and so on. Your name and date of birth is the main important thing, and photo. So have, where it comes to bank statements, have an actual bank statement, and for everything else, have a good, clean, preferably coloured copy. You can scan stuff in, and you can remove dust, and you clean plate and put all the holographs back. There are functions, so you just get a good clean copy of everything else. And with your bank statement, have the actual thing. Okay. Those of you with degrees, or like medical degrees or engineering degrees, or any other type of specialities like paramedics, or I don't know, farriers or electricians, qualified gas engineers, have a copy of your degree. Have a copy, seriously, because you may need to prove that you actually have it. Like I say, criminals will try to get in on that action after evacuation, so have an actual copy of that paperwork. And finally, pen, paper. During an emergency, a lot of people don't have access to pen and paper because they think they can just type everything away on their phones. I've said it many times and I'll say it again. Technology can fail. Pen, paper. Make notes. Share data. Share your phone number. Share your name with other people. Take down other people's name, phone numbers, addresses if you need to. Make a route plan. Leave a note. Send a letter. Even with this, you can just write a little note on here and post it. Have pen and paper with you. I always recommend a notebook, a pen, a pencil, a highlighter, and a Sharpie. So pen, pencil, highlighter, Sharpie. Even the guys in the military, they carry a notebook, pen, paper, Sharpie, highlighter. So who are we to argue with those type of people? They're experts in field work. So carry stationery with you at all times. Again, it's not going backwards. It is keeping things sort of, as Penny would say in Big Bang Theory to Sheldon, keeping things homeostasis. So keeping, sort of a gimbal or a gyroscopically things homeostasis. So even in an emergency, you are able to maintain order, calm, help yourself, help other people. So thank you very much for watching. That was the admin section. Any questions, please ask me, and I'll see you in other videos. Thank you.